Today we're taking a look at these NCAAF matches, which are happening on Saturday, September 25, 2021, and giving you match breakdowns, betting tips and predictions in general on these games. Welcome back to High Stakes, let's get straight into it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to get notified as soon as we release these sport prediction videos, and if you would like more betting tips and predictions, then check out our Patreon in the link down below. Our new Patreon is a way for us to help you improve your chances of making more money. 5 plans are available for each and every one of you. You can get 30 extra betting picks all the way up to 270 extra betting picks per month. Stop wasting hours of your time searching for bad betting advice that ends up costing you a lot of money. Join the High Stakes Patreon now and get the best betting picks and advice. Kentucky vs South Carolina. While the offense has led the way, the defense has also played well this season, allowing only 20.3 points per game, with a rush defense that is only allowing 97.7 rushing yards per game. Linebacker J.J. Weaver is disrupting plays in the trenches with 5 tackles for loss, including 3 sacks on the season thus far, while linebackers DeAndre Square and Jacques Jones control the middle of the defense with a combined 34 tackles. In addition, safety Yusuf Corker has been making plays all over the field with 17 tackles, a sack, and an interception. Our first betting advice is to pick South Carolina Gamecocks +5. South Carolina is averaging 26.3 points and 356.3 yards per game, 208 yards per game passing, and 148.3 yards per game rushing. But were held to 82 rushing yards on 34 attempts against Georgia. Defensively, the Gamecocks have allowed 289.3 yards per game, 179 yards per game passing and 110.3 yards per game rushing. Our second betting advice is to pick 49.5. North Texas vs Louisiana Tech. The offense has struggled, but the defense has been a mess to start the season, allowing 29.7 points per game with 453.7 yards allowed per game. The Mean Green will look for linebackers K.D. Davis, Kevin Wood, and Tyreke Davis to lead the way as the trio has combined for 70 tackles and 3 sacks and help set the tone in the middle of the field. Unfortunately, the secondary needs to step up, as the unit only has 3 interceptions on the season thus far and 4 passes defended. Our first betting advice is to pick Tech Bulldogs -11. Last Saturday, Louisiana Tech was a part of one of the week's top highlights, losing 39-37 as a 10.5-point home dog to SMU on a Hail Mary touchdown pass on the game's final play. Louisiana Tech quarterback Austin Kendall threw for 351 yards with 4 touchdowns and an interception in the game. Kendall is a senior who began his career with the Oklahoma Sooners back in 2016 and played for West Virginia in 2020 and 2021. This year she has thrown for 837 yards with 7 touchdowns and 3 picks. Our second betting advice is to pick over 64.5. Quick reminder, Bovada is an online sportsbook and casino established in 2011. The platform offers betting on all major sport and horse racing leagues. It has slots, table games, blackjack, and a variety of other casino games. All of the major US leagues are available for betting, including the NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, and PGA. In addition, Bovada allows wagers on esports, Olympic events, soccer, cricket, boxing, cycling, and many more competitions. Join Bovada now using our link down below and get access to all sorts of premium sport welcome bonuses after signing up and making your first deposit. West Virginia vs Oklahoma. West Virginia is averaging 39 points per game. They are throwing for 271.3 yards and rushing for 139.7 yards per game. Jarrett Doege completed 15 of 26 passes for 193 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception in the win. Letty Brown had 19 carries for 161 yards and 1 touchdown, while Sam James had 2 catches for 46 yards and 1 touchdown. West Virginia has played well defensively, giving up 17 points per game. They gave up 21 points in their last game and will need to keep playing well if they want to pull off the upset. Oklahoma is averaging 45.7 points per game. They are throwing for 291.7 yards and rushing for 195.7 yards per game. Spencer Rattler completed 24 of 34 passes for 214 yards and 1 touchdown in the win. Eric Gray had 15 carries for 84 yards, while Jaden Hasselwood had 6 receptions for 61 yards. Oklahoma has also played well defensively, giving up 17 points per game. They gave up 16 points in their last game and will need another solid defensive effort if they want to win this game. Our first betting advice is to pick Oklahoma Sooners -16. The Sooners' defense is solid but can be solved. The pass defense is a bit of a concern. They surrendered 289 passing yards last weekend and now stand down at 90th overall against the pass. The rush defense is stellar, ranking 21st in the country. Oklahoma is scoring an average of 46.3 points, landing them 6th in the FBS. They are limiting foes to only 17 points, good for 33rd overall. The WVU defense was their top strength in 2020, and they came up big against BT last week, conceding only 329 total yards. The rush defense has especially stood out, ranking 34th overall, while the pass defense is 61st. The Mountaineers are averaging 39 points in 3 games, ranking them 32nd overall. They are allowing an average of only 17 points, good for 31st in the FBS. Our second betting advice is to pick over 56. Southern Miss vs Alabama. Southern Mississippi is averaging 17.7 points per game. They are throwing for 146.3 yards and rushing for 138 yards per game. Ty Keys completed 16 of 27 passes for 157 yards and 2 interceptions in the loss. Kamani Vidal had 17 carries for 45 yards and 1 touchdown, while Tez Johnson had 10 catches for 106 yards. Southern Mississippi has also struggled defensively, giving up 26 points per game. They gave up 21 points in their last game and will need to play much better if they want to keep this game close. Alabama is averaging 41 points per game. They are throwing for 286.7 yards and rushing for 132 yards per game. Bryce Young completed 22 of 35 passes for 240 yards and 3 touchdowns in their last game. Brian Robinson Jr. had 15 carries for 78 yards and 1 touchdown, while Jamison Williams had 4 catches for 61 yards. Alabama has done a good job defensively, giving up 18.7 points per game. They gave up 29 points in their last game and will need to play better if they want to get the win. Our first betting advice is to pick Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles, plus 45. Young has been sensational in his first 3 games as a starter. You can talk about the 811 passing yards and 10 touchdowns, but his best statistic so far is the 0 interceptions. Nothing pleases a head coach more than a young quarterback taking care of the football. He'll have plenty of opportunities to air it out against the Southern Miss defense, but I'm also sure Saban would like to see more from Alabama's run game. They're averaging the 3rd least rushing yards per game in the SEC this year, after placing in 4th last season. The Golden Eagles are no pushover when it comes to run defense. So it'll be an interesting test for running back Brian Robinson Jr. and the Alabama offensive line. Southern Miss pounded the ball on the ground against Grambling until they were blue in the face, but none of that was possible against a more talented Troy defense. Imagine how difficult it'll be against Alabama's defense. Granted, the Crimson Tide aren't as strong up front as they were in 2020, but they're still a problem by SEC definition. Opposing teams are averaging only 3.63 yards per carry against them this season. Keys will have to throw because the Golden Eagles will likely fall behind early. But can he avoid the crippling turnovers that cost his team against Troy? That's the biggest question mark heading into this game. Our second betting advice is to pick 45.5. Good luck to all of you. That's it for this video. Stay tuned and stay safe for the next betting tips and advice.